Hey, this is Alexis at Tryon Creek Watershed Council. Today I'm going to show you how to remove tree ivy, particularly English ivy, which is an invasive species, meaning that it's not native to the Pacific Northwest, and it has this really impressive ability to take over a space, which can really harm our native plants. And that includes the trees that ivy vines climb. So ivy vines start really small, but as they climb the tree, they can get really large around, about as thick around as your forearm. And all of that extra weight on the trunks of the trees can make them more susceptible to disease because it weakens them, and it can also make them more likely to fall over, which is probably not something that you want to worry about. So I've got all I need with me right here. I have my clippers, my gloves, and then my boot brush for afterwards and before. The basic how-to for treating tree ivy is you want to do what's called air gapping, where you're actually going to cut all of the ivy vines around the tree at 2 given heights and then remove the vines in the space in between. So you could do your shoulder and your knee, or eye level and hip height. So it's up to you. And you'll notice that I only actually pulled ivy off of the tree in my work area, in the column of the tree that I was working to pull from, rather than pulling from overhead. And that's because I don't want to pull off more bark than is necessary, because some does come off. And I also don't want to risk pulling down any ivy branches onto my head. And there we have it. So the air gapping for this tree took me about 20 minutes. If I'd also had with me a folding saw in addition to my handheld clippers, my pruners, it might have gone a little bit faster when it came to the old growth ivy that was growing. You see, this is about thumb size, but like I said, it can get forearm size. But it was still totally doable. And what'll happen now with this tree and with the ivy growing on it is all the ivy up top is going to brown. It'll get brittle because it doesn't have any access to nutrients from the soil anymore, and it'll fall off. And that's really good, because when ivy vines reach the tree canopy, that's when they're more prone to fruiting, and that is how the ivy can get spread by critters like birds that, visit our trees. After air gapping a tree of ivy, you can do what's called a complete tree lifesaver. What you would want to do is remove any ground ivy that's growing within 6 feet of the tree trunk. And so you can imagine a sort of donut shape going around the tree and work in little wedges if you'd like. Once the ivy is removed, 6 feet away from the tree, it's going to actually grow away from the tree instead of back up towards it. So obviously in this large natural area with so many trees, that's more than I can get done by myself, but that's why we have, volunteer events for folks to come out and join us. And every tree does breathe that sigh of relief once that ivy starts to die off. So go ahead and give it a go.